Okay. So yesterday we talked about how to create lists. Uh, then we also talked about how to access a single item from a list using an index. So today we're going to do a bit more of that, but we're going to focus our attention on how to access multiple items from a list. The first method we're going to use to do this is using something called a slice. This slice basically is the same as how you get slices of bread from a loaf of bread. How you get the slices of bread. Maybe you want to get 3 or you want to get 4. You get slices which are next to each other. So basically that's what we're going to do. So we'll try to see how we can get multiple values from a list using something called a slice. And we denote a slice using a column like this. So for a slice, in the square brackets where we put the indices, we start with the index where we want to start from to get values, the position where we want to start from, then you put a colon, then where you want to end. But the end position is not included in the values you are trying to access. The start position is included, but the end position is excluded. So you only go up to but less than the end position or the end index. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's see how that works. So we print our even numbers. Then I want to show that when you put this column inside the square brackets, okay, it actually does something which almost looks indistinguishable from what you have just done, from the print you have done. So you can see, print even numbers, then print square brackets, then you put a colon in the center there. The result is the same. It looks the same. Let me say that, not the same. The result looks the same. Okay. So what does this allow us to do? For example, we can tell Python that we want the first 3 digits or the first 3 items in a list. So how do we do that? We say even numbers, that's the name of the list. In these square brackets, inside these square brackets, we start with the index where I want to start from accessing the values. For example, the first item up to the 3rd item. Are we clear? So the first item up to the 4th is 0, 1, 2 up to the third but excluding the 3rd item. Okay, so we start from the first item, which is the start index 0. That start is equals to 0 up to but excluding index number 3. So that means we are index number 3 corresponds to item number 4. So index 3 is not included in the items we're going to access. It's going to be excluded. So that allows us to access the item with index 0, index 1, and index 2, which corresponds to the first 3 items from a list. When you do that, this is what we get. So we access the 0, that's the first item. Then we access the 1, the 2, that's the second item. Then we access the 4, that is the 3rd item. As we can see, when we carry out this kind of operation, what we get in return for doing this is a shorter list. It is also a list. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So this is what is called slicing, when you can get multiple values which are next to each other from a list. When you can access multiple values which are next to each other from a list. Mwape, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sometimes you can exclude, not exclude, but you can omit the end index. The end, this one. When you omit the end index, then Python, and you give it only the start index, Python is going to access values starting from the start index all the way up to the end of your list. Are we clear? It will access values starting from the start all the way up to the end. So in this case, we start from index position 2. This corresponds to the third item all the way up to the end. Here we have omitted the end index. So when you make an omission, you access values starting from the third position. So in this case, the third item is index, that is value number 4. So we access these from 4 all the way up to the end. That is when you omit the index, the second index, which is the end index, like that. So you get another slice. A slice, as you can see, is a list. When you omit the start index and the end index, like in this case, what Python is going to do is it's going to access values starting from the beginning of the list up to the end of the list, like this. So you start when you omit, when you have a colon inside, which shows a slice, then you omit the start index and the end index. Then this allows you to access all the values in a list at once. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Mabe?
It's clear.
Okay, so the thing to remember about a slice is inside these square brackets, you put a colon, a full colon, then you specify at what position you want to start accessing these values, and up to but excluding the end position, the end index. Okay, if you omit the start index, then Python is going to access values from the beginning of the list up to the end index. If you omit the end index, Python is going to access values from the start index up to the end of the list. So there is all sorts of flexibility on which values you can access from a list. Here we print even numbers, then you see that the results is basically the same. If you want to access the last 3 items from a list, you need to start from somewhere. The last 3 items are these. So you want to start from 6, then you want to access 6, you want to access 8, you want to access 10. The index for 10 is -1. When you're starting from this end, the index for 10 is -1. The index for 8 is -2. The index for 6 is -3. So your start index is going to be -3. Then you want to go up to the end of the list. So you omit the end index in this case. So when you do that, this is what you get. You get 6, 8, and 10. So you access 6, 8, and 10. Are we clear? Is this clear?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You can also mix these indices. You can use both positive and negative indices. For example, in this case, we want to access values starting from the value whose index is 2 up to but excluding the last item in the list. The last item in the list is 10. We want to exclude 10. So we want to access, this is index 0, index 1, index 2. So we want to start from 4, index 2, up to but excluding 10. So I want to access 4, 6, and 8. So this is how we'll do it, since 10 is the last item, the list. So we access 4, 6, and 8. You can combine positive indices and negative indices. You can use both of them for starts, or mostly people tend to use positive indices for the start index, and you can also use negative indices for the end index. Are we clear? So you have all sorts of flexibility on what you can do. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
As you can see, every time we have carried out a slice, what we have got in return has been a list. Here, without knowing it, we did a slice. This was a slice we did, and we got a list in return. Then this was a slice, we got a small list in return. This is a slice, we got a small list in return. This is also a slice, we got a list in return. So every time you perform a slice, what you get back is a list. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Since we're getting back a list, we can store this list in a variable. The way we stored the actual list itself, even numbers, the original list, even numbers. So if we slice a list which is contained in even numbers, then we get back a list, then we can store that list in a variable. Okay? A slice is a list you obtain from this slicing thing. So here we have even numbers, then we get the last 3 items, because we're starting from 3, so these are the last 3 items. So create slice from even numbers. I can do an edit. If I can, let me see here. Okay, these are the last 3 items from even numbers. Create slice from even numbers of last 3 items. So that's a slice of the last 3 items. So here, these are 6, 8, and 10. This slice, I can store this slice in a variable. So I can say, I'm going to call this slice. So this same thing I've done here, which produces this slice, that's what is going, I've put here. So the slice which I'm going to get from doing this, even numbers, then square brackets, start index -3, then colon, and then I omit the end index, so I get the last 3 items. I can store this slice in a variable called first slice. Like that. Python doesn't complain. Then I can print first slice. I get this first slice. Okay. Then I can ask Python what type, what kind of data type, what kind of thing is first slice. Python tells me that first slice is a list. The reason why it's a list is because, as you can see, first slice is enclosed in square brackets. So this is one way of obtaining multiple values from a list. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So we have seen how to obtain a single value from a list, how to access a single value from a list by just using an index. Here we have seen how to access a bunch of values or multiple values from a list using what's referred to as a slice. Next, remember that we had that list of lists. Do you remember? The list of list wildlife. So I'm going to print it here. So you have a list wildlife which contains other lists inside. For example, wildlife contained this first list. The list of insects up to here. This was a list of insects, or going this side up to there. That's a list of insects. Then it also contained another list. the list of animals, the lion, kangaroos, stuff, all the way up to this side. Up to where? Up to here. That's the list of animals. Then the third list was a list of fish up to there. So the question is, how do you access a single item from this list of lists, wildlife, or how do you access multiple items from this list of lists? That's the question. If you've got a list of lists, how do you access an item from a list of lists, or how do you access items from a list of lists? For you to access items from a list of lists, you use a technique called subsetting. In this technique called subsetting, we use, after the name of the list, we include 2 pairs of square brackets. Are we clear? We include 2 pairs of square brackets. The first pair of square brackets is used for giving information about the list you want to access. Remember, you're trying to access a list which contains other lists. So, which list are you trying to access? Is it the first list, the second list, or the third list? If you access the first list, then you access the list of insects. If you access the second list, then you access the list of animals. If you access the third list, or the last list, then you access the list of fish. So that's what we use the first pair of square brackets for. We use this for accessing the lists. Is it the first item, the second list, or the third list? So we usually put an index here, the index of the list. Then the second pair of square brackets is used for accessing a value or items inside that list you have selected. Are we clear? So if you want to say you want to access the first list is this list of insects. Okay, so you access this one. Now, as you can see, in this list of wildlife, this first list is the first item. So the index of this first list insects is going to be 0. Then inside this list insects, if you want to access butterfly, then the index is going to be 0, 1, 2. So the index is going to be 2. So in the first item, in the first pair of square brackets, you put the index of the list you want to access, or the position of the list you want to access. Then in the second pair of square brackets, you put the position of the item in that list you want to access. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In these same square brackets, you can choose, it's up to you whether you want to use positive indexing, negative indexing, or you want to mix them, or you want to slice. It's all up to you what you want, or what you prefer, or let me say what you're comfortable with. So it's up to you what it is you're comfortable with. Okay, whether you're comfortable with positive index. Usually at first when people are getting started with Python, they just try to do things with positive indices. Then later on, when you become a bit more comfortable, you start including a bit of negative indexing. Then when you become a professional, you are now very confident. You can even mix positive and negative indexing. And of course, depending on what you want, you can even include a slice if you need to access more than one item. Okay, so let us see how this is going to work. So how do you access an entire list? How do you access a whole list? If you have, remember what wildlife looks like? You've printed wildlife here. It's a list of lists. If you give wildlife only this, the index 0, when you say wildlife index 0, okay, so you're saying, Python, from this list wildlife, give me the first item. The first item happens to be a list also. So what you're going to get is this. You're going to get a list of insects. That's what you get, because this list of insects is the first item in this list, wildlife. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
If you want the second item in the list, you will say wildlife index 1. The index 1 refers to the second item in the list, and that is also another list. That's the list of animals. So you access lion, kangaroo, giraffe, hippo, camel, elephant, panda, rabbit, dog, zebra, horse, rhino, monkey, tiger, cat. If you want to access the last item in this list, you say print, then inside the print function, the name of the list, then the index. Always the last item in a list has got a negative index, -1. So when you do that, that's what you get. So you have a list here also, a list of fish. That's now tilapia, now perch, red-breast tilapia, catfish, butterfly fish, tiger fish, swanfish, and sunfish. So we have seen that if we want to access one of these lists, okay, in the first pair of square brackets, you put this. In the first pair of square brackets, you put in the position or the index of the list you want to access. Next, after you access the lists, for example, in this case, for example, the first list, again we access the first list from wildlife. So it's going to be wildlife index 0. That's the first list. That one. If you want to access the 7th item in this list, item number 7, so 1, so first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then 7 is this one, item number 7. If you want to access item number 7, item number 7 has got index 6. So you include the index of the item now you want to access in this list. So the first index 0 is the list. You want to access the first list. Then in this first list, you want to access the 7th item. That is the dragonfly, which is going to have index 6. If you do that, this is what you get. You get dragonfly. Are you seeing how it works?
Yes, sir. And
Yes.
just
Yes. You have a question?
I've observed. Yeah, I've just observed.
You are observing?
Yeah, I've observed something. Just as we are trying to index something, you can get an addition or subtraction.
You can what?
By Python can perform addition to index something on the way you are doing, like to identify the index of how do I explain?
Python can perform
Item, of the item. We can perform addition, subtraction.
Yeah, if you access items, yes. If you access items, then you can do certain things with those items you have accessed. Whether it's addition, like the way I've seen how to do addition using the plus sign, or subtraction or stuff like that. So you can access different items from a list, then you do stuff with them. Our focus here at the moment is just how do we access things from a list like this. Okay? Yeah, there's a lot you can do. There's a lot you can do, and you can do all sorts of experiments with this thing. Because at the end of the day, very soon, you have access to this. I think even now, I think very soon, you have access when you're done to this notebook. Then once you have access to it, you can download it, or you can open it using your Google Colab. I'm going to show you how to do that using your Google Colab. Then after that, you're good to do anything, whatever you want with it. Okay. Next, we print, the second list. And how do you print the second list? The name of the list, then the index of the second list. So the index of the second list is 1. That is the second list. Then in this second list, if you want to print the fourth item, in this second list, the fourth item is this is the first, second, third, fourth. Yeah. So the fourth item is hippo. So that hippo is going to have index 3. So this first bit, wildlife, then the first set, this first index accesses the list of animals. Then if you want to access hippo, we add a pair of square brackets, and in that pair of square brackets we include the index for hippo, that is 3. So if you do that, you access your hippo there. Is that clear?
Yes.
As you can see here, we have 0 and 6. These are positive, so we're using positive indices. Same thing here, 1 and 3. These are positive indices. Then we come to this one, where we're accessing the last item, and we want to access. We're accessing the last list, and we want to access the last item. Okay. We're going to access the last item, but I think we're also going to do something else. We can access, let's say, before we access the last item, so let's print the last list. Before we do that, let's try to access, let's say, the second item or the fourth item. I think third item in the list. So let's add something. So I'm going to say from the last list, last list in wildlife, say print, let's say print the third, let's say print the third item in the list. So wildlife is 1, 2, 3. So third item 1, 2, 3. That's red blessed rapier. Okay. Or let's say fourth item. I like catfish. Let's say print. Okay, edit. Not third, but let's say fourth. Print fourth item from this. That is the mighty catfish. Okay, so with this information, we add a code cell. So we say print. Inside there we say wildlife. So wildlife, we are looking for the list of fish. That's the last item. Then the fourth item is going to have index 3, and that should give us access to catfish. Yeah, there's a catfish. So here now you see we have mixed a negative index with a positive index. So it depends on what you want to do. If you want to access the last list, yeah, it's easier to access using a negative index. Then if you want to access the fourth item in this list, which is catfish, then you put in an index 3. So this is mixed indexing. So here we had positive indexing, then here we have mixed things up, negative and positive. Then here, from the last list, wildlife, print the last item in the list, which is sunfish. So here we want to access the last item in this list of fish, which is this sunfish. Again, last item in any list is easier accessed using a negative index. So we say -1, that's the last item. So the first part, this one, it gives you the last list. Then this -1 again here gives us the last item in that list. What am I doing? gives us the last item in that list. There, sunfish. With this subsetting, as you can see, in all these examples I've shown, the only thing we've been able to do is we have been able to access one item. Okay? We have been able to access one item using the index in the second square of brackets, like here and here. If you want to access multiple items from wildlife, like before, you need to use a slice. So the second pair of square brackets should contain a slice. The first one should contain the index of the list you want to obtain. This one, the first one should contain the index of the list you are interested in. Then the second pair of square brackets, if we want to get more than one item from this list, it should contain a slice. Are we clear? Is it clear what we are saying? Whenever you want to access, whenever you want to access more than one item from a list, we use a slice. So this wildlife again, so how do we do that? How are we going to use a slice in combination with this? So here we print the first lists from wildlife, that is the list of insects. There it is. Now we want to access these items: centipede, cockroach, cricket, dragonfly. Where are they in the list? Here they are. We want to access these: centipede, cockroach, cricket, dragonfly. That is 4 items. How are we going to access them? By putting a slice in the second pair of square brackets. So we start with wildlife, then we select the list of insects using index 0. Then inside here, the second pair of square brackets, that's where we put the index. We put the slice. So we start from here, centipede. This is so 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth item. So we start with index 3. We're going up to all the way 4, 5, 6, 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, index up to item 7. Item 7, the dragonfly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that should have. So dragonfly has got index 6. But in order to include dragonfly, which has got index 6, we need to use the index for fly, which is 7. Item 8. So this one here, we need to include. Yeah, let's see what it gives us. I think there's a mistake somewhere. Okay, so this one, index 7. So let's see. So here, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So fly has got the index 7. So up to but excluding item with index 7, and this is what we get. So centipede, cockroach, cricket, dragonfly. So it's possible for us to access multiple items like this. Are we clear?
Yes. To remove the 3.
If you remove the 3, okay, so if we remove the 3, then we will be saying access the first 1, 2. Let's see what happens if you remove the 3. I'm going to do that. So I'm saying print wildlife, then index 0. So index 0 is that. Then you don't remove, but you omit the 3. So you omit the 3, you go up to 7. So when you do that, this is what we get. So we get from here, when you omit the start index, you're telling Python start from the beginning of the list. So it starts with ant, b, butterfly, centipede, cockroach, cricket, all the way up to dragonfly. That's what happens.
Alright.
Yeah. Does that answer your questions on how this thing works?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Rhoda?
Yes, sir.
All right. Next, second list. So how do you get the second list? By using index 1. So we do that. So from this second list, we want to access lion, kangaroo, giraffe, hippo, and camel. So here, lion, kangaroo, giraffe, hippo, camel. So basically, we want to access the first 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, we want to access the first 5 items. Okay. So how do we do that? The second list, this, then the start index. We want to start from index 0 up to, but excluding the item with index 5, which is the 6th item. So when you do that, this is what we get. So get lion, kangaroo, giraffe, hippo, and camel. Again, we can do the same thing which Mwape suggested. Say, what if you exclude the first item, the first index, you just omit it. When you omit it, it basically starts from the beginning of your list up to the 5th item. So in this case, we are going to get an answer which is identical, but using 2 different methods. Lion, kangaroo, giraffe, hippo for the first one, where we have the 0. And in this one, we omitted the 0 here. But Python, because you have omitted the start index, assumes that you want to start accessing values from the beginning of your list. So you end up with lion, kangaroo, giraffe, hippo, and camel like this. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then we move on to the last list. That's the list of fish. There. Then if you want to access if you want to access these items, catfish, butterfly fish, and tiger fish. So basically they're here. Here. Catfish, butterfly fish, and tiger fish. There. You have to use an index. Where is the start index for catfish? So item number 1, this is 0, 1, 2, 3. So the catfish has got index 3. So that becomes our start index. There. Then all the way up to 3. So index 4, index 5. Tigerfish. So tigerfish has index 5. But we want to include tigerfish in our list. So we go up to index 6. So fine. But the so fine is going to be excluded from our list. So the item in the list whose index is the end index is going to be excluded from that list. So when you do that, this is what we get. So we get catfish, butterfly fish, and tigerfish. They can also do this. We have used 2 different positive indices, but you can also can find other ways of doing it. For example, here we are using negative indices. We start with -5 and all the way up to -2. So basically what we are doing with -5 is we start counting from the back here. 1 lasts, 1, 2, -1 here, -2, -3, -4, -5. So we start with -5. That's why this negative is there. That's the start point. -5 up to -1, -2. We want to include these up to, but excluding -2. So when you do this with this start, you run it, we get the same results: catfish, butterfly fish, and tigerfish. You can mix them up, a positive index and a negative index, and you still get the same result. So the options when it comes to especially slices, when you're doing slices, it's really up to you what you're comfortable with and what makes more sense. There is no one way written in stone on how you can do your slicing. Is that clear?
But when you interchange the -2 and +3, it means the results will be different also.
Yeah, if you change the negatives, like in this case, if you change the negatives, the results might be different. But you have to try and see what happens. In this case,
let's interchange 2 and 3.
Okay, if you try to interchange 2 and 3, so print. Now, I don't know if that's going to make sense, world life, because you have to see what you're trying to do there, right? -1. So you want to start -2. If you want to start with -2, -2, that's your start point, right? So here, -1, -2. So you're starting from here, sawfish, right? You're starting from sawfish, then you say you want to go up to 3. I don't know how, if this is going to work,
Yes.
but I doubt if this might work. Yeah, it's empty because you're going back in reverse. So you are here,
Alright.
yeah, then you're trying to go back in reverse, then it's empty. So you can't just interchange them like that. You always select things in this direction, like going to the from left to right, not from right to left. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Yes, sir, it is. It's clear.
Okay. So delete this. Okay. You can change. So that is about accessing items in a list. If you want to access one item, you can use an index. If you want to access multiple items from a list, you can use a slice. If you are dealing with a list of lists, then you have to use a technique called subsetting. If you are dealing with a list which contains other lists inside, then you have to use a technique called subsetting. With subsetting, you use, after the name of the list, you use 2 square brackets. The first set of square brackets is the one where you specify the list you're interested in, the index of the list. Then the second square brackets is the one where you are going to specify the index or the slice. You specify the index to obtain access only one value. You specify the slice to obtain multiple values. Okay. You can change the values which are stored in the list. You can change them. For example, if you look at the list insects, the one which you have, the original one, insects, if you access this, the third item in the list, insects, you do this. We print out the third item in the list. We get butterfly. Now, we can change the value of the third item in the list. Okay? And how do we do that? By using an equal sign. And what else are we going to do? The value we want to change to, we're going to put it on the right. Then the lists where we want to change things and the position at which we want to change. The list where we want to change things and the position where I want to change things. Have you seen this? So we are trying to say, tell Python, in this list called insects, at the third position, change the value from butterfly to moth. Like this. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
So when we do this, Python carries out our instructions. Then when we print the third item, now the third item has changed to moth. When you print the whole list of insects, now you see that the third item has changed. It's now moth. It's no longer butterflies. So this is how we change the value, or we change the value of an item in a list. You specify the name of the list as follows. You specify the name of the list, then followed by a pair of square brackets. Then inside these square brackets, you specify the position, that is the index where you want to change the value. Then followed by one equal sign, then the value you want to replace with. Is this clear?
Yes, I did.
Yes, then the value you want to replace with. Here we print the list animals. Then we check out what is the first animal. We print out the first animal in this list. The first animal, as you can see in this list, occupies index 0. That is lion. Then we change. We want to change the first item in the list animals from lion to tiger.
Tiger.
Yes, so we specify the name of the list. The list is animals. Then a pair of square brackets. Then inside this pair of square brackets, we specify the position where we want to change. So the 0, that's the first item. Then an equal sign, then the value we want to change with. That's tiger. So we run that. Then we print out animals. Now you see that the first item in animals is now tiger. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions? All right. So I think today we should stop here. What's left? Adding values to a list, removing items from a list, organizing a list, extending a list, finding the length of a list, checking membership to list, copying a list, deleting a list. These we can wrap up this thing on Friday, when we meet on Friday, because with a much longer time span to meet on Friday. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes. In the meantime, you can do the following, as I'm going to show you, while we are waiting for Friday. Okay? You can, right now I've changed my screen. I'm now in Moodle. Okay, I'm now in Moodle. So what you can do is, for example, you can come here. Can you see this item? The one which says Python list?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me just do this. Yeah. You can come here like this. Not the ones with YouTube. These ones with YouTube are videos. Video recordings of what we have done. Of things which have been done before. So you come to this one here, then you right click. After you right click, you open link in new tab. I would advise you to use Google Chrome. So in the new tab, as you can see, the new tab is opening up there. Then this is what you get. You get something like this. Then here it says that's the netbook and stuff. Then it says open with Google Colab. So you can open with Google Colab, or if you want your own copy of the notebook, you can download it here. So it's going to download the notebook to your computer so that you can have a copy of your notebook to your computer. But if you want to play around with this notebook, then you open with Google Colab. Then it's going to open Colab for you. Like this. Then after it opens Colab for you, then you can connect. Here, click to connect. Once you click to connect, then you can start playing this notebook. Now there are a couple of things you need to be, let it finish connecting. Okay, now it's connected, so you've been given space by Google. Now, there are a couple of things you might look at this. There's this arrow here. It's pointing down, so you can see stuff. If I do that, you don't see things. So usually most of the time when you open a notebook, things might be like this. This arrow might be pointing this direction, and it tells you there's something hidden here. So if you want to see what is hidden, then you just click on that arrow, then it's going to open up like that. Same applies here. So as you can see, what you have is a fresh copy of the notebook. So you can work with this fresh copy of the notebook. You run it, you see what the results are. You can try to do things, or you can even make a copy of yourself. You can save a copy for yourself. You can save file, save a copy in Drive. So you can store your own copy of the notebook in your Google Drive. Then you can open it in your Google Drive. Then you can play with it and do all sorts of things. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we have come to the end of our class here. Unless you have got any questions, well, we can ask, but otherwise, yes.
So to the question, I'm just concerned with those who are missing out classes, especially the third years. I don't know if we can get in touch with them.
Me, there's nothing I can do. People expect me to teach. So if people are registered, then I can see they can access Moodle, because I see which people can access Moodle and who are not. When did they access it? They know there are times for classes they're supposed to click there, then they don't want to click. There's nothing I can do really. If only 2 students show up for class like you do, I have to teach the 2 of you. Luckily for them, we have these video recordings. So they'll watch the recordings at their own time. But for me, I have to teach. If only 1 person shows up, I have to teach. If you 2 show up, I have to teach. Okay? Yeah, so yes, your concern is founded, because clearly, as you might be realizing, as much as it's not easy to learn these things we're doing. You have to take part, because you might have a question, and if you're not in class, you can't ask the question. Okay? So that certain things which you might think this and that, so that they get clarified. So yes, we are concerned, but we can't do anything for them. The only way they can help themselves is by attending class. Okay? They'll watch recordings. We'll put YouTube videos of the same recordings, but that's the only thing I can do. Luckily, yeah, we're now doing this video recording stuff. Okay, so please, yeah, unless you know them, you have their phone numbers. I don't have their phone numbers. All right, so see you on, yeah, try to contact them. See you on Friday.
All right, sir.
Okay, cheers.